The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. In regards to the predicted death of Kamala Harris, God is pointing to Hanukkah Day 8, the 8th day of Hanukkah, which begins at sunset on January 1st and goes to sunset January 2nd. And so Kamala Harris could either crash on January 1st or January 2nd. January 1st, 2025 will be exactly 400 days after 4 former First Ladies traveled to the 4th state to join the Union for the funeral of former First Lady Rosalynn Carter. The name, and by the way, just to make more of a case here, the story of that too was how Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama hitched a ride on the Air Force One plane. And what we are talking about is the predicted date of Kamala Harris in her Air Force plane. Okay, so again, the predicted date for this, January 1st, 2025, will be exactly 400 days after 4 former First Ladies traveled to the 4th state to join the Union for the funeral of the former First Lady, Rosalynn Carter. The name Rosalynn Carter is equal to 990 in Hebrew gematria, and 990 is the 44th triangular number. In the triangle of numbers, the last number in the 44th row is 990. Jimmy Carter spoke at the funeral at the age of 99, and that was part of the story. Also, he had been married to his wife for 77 years. That was part of the story. Kamala Harris is the 7 times 7th vice president. Her plane crash will mirror that of Flight 77 on 9/11, a flight from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles. Now, 99 is 9 times 11, which also confirms that. And by the way, this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works in the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. The 44th president was inaugurated in 2009. 99 is 9 times 11. And on 9/11, 44 people died when Flight 93 crashed 40 plus 40 miles outside of Pittsburgh. And it was known for that. All of the news stories at the time, 80 miles, 80 miles, 80 miles, right? Outside of Pittsburgh. 93, by the way, hints at 39, the 39th president, Jimmy Carter. Harris, but it also hints at more. It hints at the sun that's 93 million miles away from Earth, which is why it wasn't Flight 39. Harris will crash, predicted to crash, on her way back to Washington, D.C. for the funeral of Jimmy Carter, which will be 4 plus 4 days after Beyonce's halftime performance at the Pittsburgh football game. Beyonce is known for being obsessed with the number 4. And 4 days in between those dates is the death of Jimmy Carter in the 4th state. January 1st, 2025 will be 89. Again, the inverse of 89 is 0.01123, which is the 188th prime number. January 1st, 2025 will be 89 days, which is at whoa exclamation mark, after it was announced that Barack Obama would join Harris's campaign, with the first event, and God uses firsts for signs, being in Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh Steelers played the KC Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are symbolic of presidents and the 2 antichrists. The final score of the game added up to 39, which hinted at the 39th president, who died 4 days after the performance by Beyonce, who was obsessed with the number 4, when the score added up to 39. KC is the equivalent of 13 in Hebrew gematria. God repeats the number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning, and 39, as in the 39th president, is 13 plus 13 plus 13. That's also the score of the game involving KC, the total score. The 2 antichrists are described in Revelation chapter 13, as in the chiefs, as in KC. In the Bible, the king of Egypt is symbolic of the Antichrist, and the Israelites escaped Egypt after 400 years. Rosalind Carter and Jimmy Carter were known for having spent their entire lives in Plains, Georgia, except for their time in the governor's mansion and the White House. In the Bible, King David subdued the tribes of the plains on the plains of... In the Bible, King David subdued the tribes on the plains of Gaza. Plains, Georgia rhymes with Plains, Gaza. Carter pressured Israel to give part of the Plains of Gaza territory to Egypt at Camp David. Rosalind Carter was the person to first suggest the location of Camp David. This is merely scratching the surface of the reasons for how this prediction is known in advance. For more information, please visit Odyssey, spelled ODYSEE.com, or rumble.com video channel named Harris Crash Prediction. And also read the website trumpprediction.com. One last thing here too. There are many Jimmy Carter videos that explain the trails of signs that God was demonstrating for Jimmy Carter. And it is so amazing and important. But unfortunately, his date was not, the date of his death was in the end not recognized in time. And it wasn't possible either. Looking at it now, we can clearly see that God's, there's connections to confirm this, but it wouldn't have been theoretically been possible to know ahead of time until the Beyonce performance of her Cowboy Carter album. I forgot to mention that. She performed Cowboy Carter 4 days, and she's obsessed with 4 days before the death of Jimmy Carter, which is in turn 4 days, and he died in the 4th state, which is 4 days before the predicted death of Kamala Harris and President Trump. And so, anyway, had it been recognized, let's say, the day after, on the 26th, that, the Cowboy Carter performance was important, that still would have only given the 27th and 28th, because anyway, there wouldn't have been enough. There would have only been a small amount of time, and I was focused at that time on Kamala Harris and President Trump and the analysis for that. So, but I'm not surprised that Jimmy Carter died right before the predicted death of Kamala Harris and President Trump, and also incidentally the prediction for the dirty bombs in Manhattan and the mass evacuation, because God revealed this summer that Jimmy Carter is symbolism for Methuselah in the Bible. And the name Methuselah means when he dies, destruction. So, anyway, what I will do is, when I have some time after all of this chaos has gotten done with, these predictions, I'll repost the Jimmy Carter videos and update them with the explanation that, Jimmy Carter was known ahead of time to be very important. We just missed the date, unfortunately, of his death. Theoretically could have been known, but it couldn't have been known before the 26th. And that would have only given the 26th and the 27th to produce the videos. Because if a video is produced on the 28th, it's not going to be believed, because if you post date it on the 28th, some of the skeptic will say, oh, well, you were in a different time zone, which allowed you to make the prediction. So you have to post the video 2 days before the prediction. So in other words, it would only have given the 26th and 27th to produce the videos again for Jimmy Carter's death. But there's like the overwhelming theme from the end of May, let's say, or especially July 1st to December was Jimmy Carter. It wasn't Harris, it wasn't Trump, it wasn't Paul Simon, it wasn't the dirty bombs, it wasn't the bombing of Iran by Israel. God was obsessed with this theme of Jimmy Carter because essentially, again, his death means destruction now because he's symbolism for Methuselah. So there is so much information on Jimmy Carter, and now it's a really sad story that all of that couldn't be presented in videos predicting his death date in advance. That's the way it is. So what I will do, though, is still tell these stories, and when Kamala Harris dies 4 days after the death of Carter in the fourth state, it will prove everything. And on that note, she could die on the 1st of January or the 2nd of January. The 2nd of January is 4 days after Carter's death on the 29th. But God is pointing to the Hebrew calendar date, which begins at sunset and ends at sunset. God is pointing to Hanukkah day 8, as in 4 plus 4. Hanukkah day 1 began on sunset Christmas Eve, December 24th. So in other words, the day that Jimmy Carter died is also a Hanukkah day. He died on Hanukkah day 4 in the fourth state, which hints at the 44th president, which is why Jimmy Carter, he epitomizes the symbolism in the president being the Antichrist. Jimmy Carter was not a Christian. He was leftism with a cross, and leftism is a false religion. Right? He was a man of the left, and truly a man of the left. Okay? Anyway, the point is that he is symbolic of the coming Antichrist, who, like Jimmy Carter, will pressure Israel and all this and lead a world effort to divide God's land and make Jerusalem an international city, which Barack Obama will do, the 44th president. Well, the point is that whether Kamala Harris and Trump die on the 1st or 2nd, it'll still be 4 days after the death of Carter in the fourth state on Hanukkah day 4. Because we're talking about, again, these dates being from sunset to sunset. Okay? I hope that's clear. And when the predictions come to pass regarding Kamala Harris, I will point back to this particular video in the future Carter videos. I will be talking about this particular video in the future Carter videos, and I will say that all of the information in the Carter videos, which is the point of the prediction, will be 100% correct. And the point of the prediction, again, if you haven't heard me say before, is not for you to go, oh, neat, cool. God, predicted this in advance. No, it is to convey the extremely important information and knowledge that are contained in these stories that God is telling through his true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is an interconnected web that develops these trails of signs. And the point is that you need to know all of the Carter information. And that was the hope that you would learn all of it through the prediction of the date of Carter's death. But this will de facto be proven through the death of Kamala Harris, right? Because again, the reason for that, knowing that, is that it'll be 4 days after the death of Carter in the fourth state. Therefore, Carter's death is a step in the trail, which will prove the steps in the trail leading to December 29th, the date of Carter's death.